Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's virtual Cabinet meeting hosted by Bassetlaw District Council. Given the current challenging situation that we all continue to face following the outbreak of COVID-19, the law has been changed to allow councils to host virtual meetings rather than requiring councillors to be present in the committee chamber when making decisions. This keeps everyone safe by maintaining social distancing, and also allows business to be conducted in an appropriate manner. So it is, by definition, very important that all councillors can hear each other. And so, in a moment, I will invite cabinet members to, in hopefully alphabetical order, to introduce themselves and so test everyone's broadband connection and make sure that everyone can hear and participate appropriately. First of all, I could turn to Councillor Dukes, please.
Here, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Evans.
Here, Chair.
Thank you. I can hear everything just fine myself. Councillor Lee.
Here, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Scawthorne.
Here, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Shaw.
Here, Chair.
And Councillor White.
Good evening, Chair. Here.
Good evening. Thank you. Also, we are joined by liaison members this evening. And first of all, I'll turn to Councillor Hazel Brand.
Yeah, good evening, Chair. Present.
Good evening. And I'll just double check, but I think Councillor Fielding may be in another meeting.
She has sent her apologies through, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just to check, I don't know if Councillor Quigley has been able to join us.
Not at the moment, Chair, no.
Okay, thank you very much. Also, we have a number of officers, council officials to support the conduct of the meeting this evening. I do have a number of names in front of me, so I'll just work through the list that I have. So if we could first turn to the Chief Executive, Mr. Neil Taylor.
Good evening, Chair.
Thank you. Good evening. Mr. Armiger, David Armiger.
Yes, good evening, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. David Hill.
Yes, I'm here. Good evening, Chair.
Good evening. Mr. Steve Wormold.
Yes, good evening, Chair.
Good evening. Mr. Steve Brown.
Present, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Alison Craig.
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Karen Childs.
Yes, present, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Craighead.
Good evening, Chair.
Good evening. Also supporting the meeting this evening, Linda Dorr and James Lavender attending to technical matters.
Good evening, Chair.
Good evening,
Chair.
Good evening. Thank you. Now, if during the course of the meeting we do lose connectivity or the meeting becomes inquorate due to any difficulties, or the live streaming comes to an end for any abrupt reason, then what we'll do is really adjourn the meeting for about 5 minutes just to allow for connections to be re-established. Now, there are a couple of confidential items on the agenda this evening, and when we reach that point, the live streaming will come to an end. And what we'll do, afterwards, everyone will be making sure that everyone's continuing to comply with the code of conduct, we can continue in the appropriate way. Now, given that this is a virtual meeting, I'll just be a moment. Given that this is a virtual meeting, there's no corporate responsibility to undertake any fire procedures as we ordinarily would do. However, I would like to highlight that the committee meeting is being live streamed this evening on social media, so everyone can just make sure that from where you're joining the meeting from, that you're able to do that safely. And I do apologise. I think I omitted to invite one of our officer colleagues to confirm that everything was all well with the connectivity. I think Mr. Craig Taylor, you're with us this evening. I apologise for missing you out there.
I'm present, Chair, and sitting politely in the background.
Thank you very much. I do apologise. Moving on from there, if I could just remind everyone, if people could keep their microphones on switched off, that will help to ensure that we can hear everyone clearly and avoid any background noise. Now, agenda item 1 is the suspension of council procedure rules for up to 15 minutes to allow for questions from members of the public. That is a regular agenda item. And members of the public have been given the opportunity to request to ask a question. And I'd just like to double check with the committee clerk whether any questions have been received. I don't believe they have, but I want to double check.
Chair, I can confirm that no questions have been received for Cabinet members this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Next, therefore, I'll turn to agenda item 2, which is apologies. Have any apologies been received, please?
Thank you, Chair. Apologies have been received from liaison member Councillor Sybil Fielding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 3 is to receive declarations of interest by members and officers. If I could turn first to members, if any declarations of interest are to be received and noted. I don't see any. And if we could next, if we could turn to officers, if there are any declarations of interest to be taken on board at this stage. Mr. Wormald.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I need to declare a disclosable pecuniary interest in agenda item 14A, the legal and licensing review, because the report now contains proposals relating to my post, so I'll leave the meeting for that agenda item.
Understood. Thank you very much. If there are any other declarations of interest that arise during the course of the meeting, please call out and be able to deal with those in the right way. Agenda item 4 is minutes of the meeting from the 23rd of November 2020 and the 11th of February 2021. Those are to be found at pages 7 to 23. And if I could ask members if they are content to accept those minutes as an accurate record of those meetings. I do see confirmation of that. And just to double check, there's no dissent from that course of action. No. Thank you very much. So those are received and confirmed as an accurate record. Thank you for that. Agenda item 5 is minutes for action and implementation, to be found at pages 25 to 29 of the agenda. And are there any comments or observations on that item at all? No, thank you. Agenda item 6 is the outstanding minutes list, to be found at pages 31 to 35 of the agenda. And again, are there any comments or observations in relation to that item at all? If not, agenda item 7 is the forward plan at pages 37 to 39 of the agenda. And I'd just like to ask Cabinet colleagues if they are happy to approve that forward plan. And also, I will ask if there are any comments or observations. So I see no comments or observations and everyone's content with the forward plan as noted. Thank you. The next agenda items are under section A, items for discussion in public. Agenda item 8 under key decisions, I should say. Agenda item number 8 is a report from the Cabinet Member for Housing. Agenda item 9A, it is a review of the Disabled Facilities Grant and Adaptations Policy, key decision 617, to be found at pages 41 to through to 83. And at this point, I'd like to hand over to Councillor Scawthorne, who will be able to outline the report, please.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
The purpose of this report is to seek members' approval for the revised Disabled Facilities Grant and Adaptations Policy. It is a statutory duty to provide the disabled facility grants to qualifying applicants under the Housing Grants, Construction and Regeneration Act 1996. Whilst the council has a duty under the Act to provide adaptations to tenants living in their own properties, it is not obliged by statute. In the interest of fairness and equality, the current policy follows the same process for both public, as council home properties, and private sectors, including means testing, which means that applicants' income and savings have to be assessed and determined to determine the amount of any contributions they are required to make towards the cost of the required work. As a result of this policy, council tenants have been asked to pay for some or all of their adaptations to their home. We have experienced tenants' refusal, which means badly needed adaptations have not been carried out, leaving our tenants in some distress and not able to adequately use their property. In some cases, this may lead to tenants requesting transfers to alternative accommodation or at risk of injury. Routinely, local authorities do not apply means testing to tenants residing in council properties. Instead, their costs are met by the housing revenue account up to the agreed amount. And a budget of 540,000 is allocated in 2021 and 22. The new policy sets out a minimum and maximum amount of funding available for adaptations. The revised Disabled Facility Grant and Application Policy attached to Appendix 1 of this report removes any financial means test in respect of council's tenants. The decision to remove this means test to council tenants may result in a small increase of costs associated with this budget. However, it may see a saving in void required costs, where tenants who need to move to meet their housing needs if they cannot afford adaptations to their existing homes. Chair, the recommendations are at 6.1 and 6.2 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. At this point, I'd like to hand over to Alison Craig, just to see if there's anything further to add in relation to this item.
Thank you, Chair. Just whilst the main change to the policy, as Councillor Scothan has set out, is to remove the means test in respect of council tenants, it does also take account of some very minor changes which have been agreed as alongside some changes with the county council, where liaison takes place with the occupational therapy team. Other than that, I have nothing further to add unless anybody has any questions. I'd be happy to take those.
Thank you very much indeed. And can I ask if there are any comments or observations on this item? First, I'll turn to Councillor Dukes, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I welcome this report. I sit on a charity that does provide adaptations, funds for adaptations and alterations to property as part of its remit in one particular area of the district. And I just would like those sorts of opportunities for support to be made aware much more widely to residents, both in private and rented and council accommodation, so that if need be, they can access those sorts of funds. I know that we're not the only charity that offer these types of services, and I think it's another way of accessing, in some cases, which are fairly large pots of money that could support individuals and families when they do need to make adaptations to property. I think Councillor Brand will back me up in this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think by definition, that's a handover to Councillor Brand, I think.
Thank you, Chair. I was poised to put my my electronic hand up anyway, but certainly I would support what Councillor Dukes has just said. Just a very quick sort of practical question, if I may. When it comes to council housing, removing the means test would seem eminently sensible thing to do. When those tenants move on, are efforts made to, assuming it's a significant thing like a walk-in shower or a stair lift or something, are efforts made to allocate that housing to someone else who would need the same sort of equipment? In other words, it's not all taken out again. Thank you.
Absolutely, there's been similar inquiries, I have to say, but I'll hand over to between Councillor Scawthorne or Alison to assist with that.
Yes,
go on, Alison, I'll let you.
I was going to say I can answer that for you, Chair. Yes, Councillor Brand, they do. Where we have families on the waiting list who are requiring adaptations or adapted properties, they are they're dealt with without needing to bid. So should a property become empty with adaptations, we will automatically look at that list of applicants before the properties are then advertised to the waiting list. Obviously, if there isn't anybody then needing a property of that type, then it is advertised wider to the waiting list. We wouldn't routinely remove adaptations if we don't need to, because as you correctly say, they have been provided and are quite expensive. We are seeking to now compile an adapted property register. So we already have that information about our assets held, and unless in extreme circumstances would we remove an adaptation. And that might be, for example, in a family home where a level access bathing facility has been provided and a family has small children, perhaps under the age of 7. If children are over the age of 7, we wouldn't seek to remove a shower, for example, but for children under the age of 7 who aren't able to use a shower safely on their own, then it's probably only in those instances that we would remove an adaptation.
Oh, thank you very much for that full answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Scawthorne, I don't know if there's anything that you wish to add to that.
No, Chair, I think that covered everything. Thank you.
Okay, not a problem. Thank you very much. Are there any other comments or observations on this item at all? If not, then I'll move to the recommendations on page 44 of the report and ask colleagues if there are any, if there's any dissent from those being approved. No, thank you. So I'll take those as agreed. The next agenda item that we have, 8B, is the Housing Revenue Account Business Plan 2021 to 22, running through to 2025 to 26. It is a key decision. Number 843, to be found at pages 85 to 143 of the agenda. And again, I'll hand over to Councillor Scawthorne to outline this report, please.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to approve the Housing Revenue Account Business Plan for the period 2021-22 to 25-26. The Council is required to produce a 30-year business plan as a minimum for the Housing Revenue Account, the HRA. The new HRA 40-year business plan model was purchased and prepared for 2020-21 onwards and set out, and a report setting out the financial position of the HRA was presented to Cabinet on the 7th of July 2020. That report also recommended that the Head of Housing prepared a HRA business plan that outlines the priorities and objectives of the housing service over the medium term of the model, and that a further report be brought to members. This report introduces the HRA business plan and seeks its approval. The HRA business plan is a key strategic document which sets out the council's income and expenditure plans for delivering council housing services in Bassetlaw. It also sets out the key priorities for the following 5-year period and how the council intends to improve the services it delivers to its tenants. The HRA business plan financial model also supports the overall plan, will be updated every year, set to budgets and changes for the year ahead. It also includes the 5-year plan for our Housing Capital Investment Programme, which was approved on the 5th of January this year. The report explains that any changes in national housing policy can have a significant impact on the HRA business plan. The plan therefore sets out the national policy context within which the housing service operates and the impacts that these will have on the delivery and priority of the housing services. The social housing white paper will have particularly significant impact, including tighter regulations, in particular for local authorities, and a review of the Decent Home Standards. Failure to comply with the regulatory of social housing customer service tests every 4-year inspections could result in regulatory notices and unlimited fines being imposed on the housing service. The impact of these policies is likely to be significant in the way it delivers housing services across the district, and therefore investment in the housing stock and the housing services we provide to tenants need to be carefully planned in order to ensure that the council makes the most of its resources it has available. Following the return of the housing services to the management of the council in October 2018, a significant amount of work has taken place to review policies, both nationally and local services provision, and understand the priorities of the council and its tenants. This work has informed the key priorities contained within the Housing Service Delivery Plan, which sets out within the HRA business plan. The key priorities for the next 5 years are, firstly, by investing in our housing stock and delivering improvements to our tenants' homes. This will be done by refurbishing the independent living schemes, commencing with Larwood House in 2021. Also, introducing a holistic approach to estate regeneration, commencing with the Wimp Estate on 2021. Maintaining 100% of our housing stock to meet the Decent Home Standards. Carrying out a detailed review of the repairs and maintenance services, including the council's repair policy, and introducing a post-completion of repairs inspection as part of an enhanced quality assurance process. Secondly, we will take a proactive approach to manage our neighbourhoods and support our residents. We will achieve this by carrying out a review and updating the council's choice-based lettings and applications policy. Undertake a review of the supported houses service and upgrade the Warden Lifeline system to ensure that it complies with the transition to digital in 2025. Undertake a self-assessment of our tenants' engagement opportunities in accordance with the Homes England's tenants' involvement and empowering standards. Undertake a review of the housing caretaker services. Thirdly, increase the supply and quality of new homes across more types of accommodation by building 120 new homes on Radford Street in Worksop, acquiring 20 new homes on sites that yet to be determined within the district, and also building 40 new homes on sites again yet to be determined across this district. And finally, to keep in Councillor Evans' good books, keep our costs under control, explore further savings and achieve better value for money. This will be done by carrying out a detailed review of the repairs and maintenance service, including the council's repairs policy and recharging repairs policy. procure and implement a fully integrated housing management and repairs ICT system, which allows customers self-service and reduces back office inefficiencies. And thirdly, identify alternative options for the disposal of non-performing assets. Attached to the business plan is the housing service delivery plan, information on rents, finances, housing capital investment programme and risk management plan. Chair, the HRA business plan gives an exciting look into the future of the council's housing and must be an envy of many other councils. To see what we have achieved and hope to achieve in the future is a consequence of the council's strong, fair leadership, close office member relationship and a workforce with a strong commitment to its tenants and residents and a pride in the organisation they work for. I thank everyone for making this well-oiled machine, that is Basildon District Council's housing service. The recommendations are at 6.1, 6.2 and 6.3. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed for that comprehensive outline of a very positive agenda. Alison Craig, anything to add at all?
No, nothing further to add, Chair, but happy to take questions.
Thank you very much. I'll ask now if there are any comments or observations. I can see the Chief Executive has indicated, and then Councillor Dukes.
Thank you, Chair. Just a small but important point, I think, and one of the reasons that the council wanted to bring the housing service back in control was to exert more democratic input into the processes. And I think the quality and quantity of this report gives everybody a very transparent view about how the council wants to take the housing service forward. And I think that contrasts quite starkly, really, with the amount of information and influence the council could previously make over the housing service. And I think, as the portfolio holder has outlined, there's a very dynamic and exciting programme here that perhaps we wouldn't have been able to achieve if members had not taken the decision they did to change the direction of the housing service, which I think has been very commendable. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Dukes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think the Chief Executive has said pretty much what I wanted to say. I think this is a very exciting report. I think it proves that we made the right decisions in bringing the service back in-house. It is clear that I have, as a Cabinet member now, have much more information flowing through to me about how the service is working, which makes me feel much more comfortable that our tenants are getting a good service. And I think that this is an imaginative, an exciting and forward-thinking plan that can only benefit both those tenants in Bassetlaw that use our service, but also those that will in the future use our service, because what we are providing is good quality support serviced homes, and that's fantastic in this day and age. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Councillor Brandt.
Thank you, Chair. Well, once again, I follow Councillor Dukes and agree absolutely with everything that he's said. I just wanted to ask under paragraph 3.10, where it talks about investing in housing stock and delivering improvements to tenants' homes, just to link that with something else that the council is doing, which is the consultation on electrical vehicle charging. So is the housing service looking at, we've got 9 years, haven't we, before, no, a few more than that. We've got a few years before we're going to have to get rid of our petrol and diesel cars if we want a new one. So is the housing service looking at that whole area for its tenants?
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if Alison or Steve wants to comment on that.
I think we'll be stealing Councillor Lee's thunder here because we've got a report further on in the agenda. We've got a new fleet manager being taken on by the council, and he is looking at new ways that we can green our fleet. I'm quite happy for Alison to go any further on any further information if she would like.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Brand, for your question. Yes, we are doing so. The new homes at Radford Street, we will be looking to install electrical charging points at properties there. And indeed, as part of the refurbishment of Larwood House, we will be looking to install 1 or 2 public charging points in the parking areas adjacent to Larwood House. So yes, it is something that we are taking forward.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Are there any other comments or observations at all on this item? Sorry, Councillor Lee.
Thanks, Chair. Just to add to what Councillor Scawthorne just said, it's a huge plan towards the future, really, to make sure that not only do we get greener vehicles and greener services, but we're also looking at how we renew our refuse services, which are unlikely to be electric. They're more likely to be powered in a different way, and technology is moving all the time. So we're already looking at what we can do for the future. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. There's no doubt whatsoever that from taking the decision to have more direct management of the housing service, there's been a number of changes made, which we see over this period resulting in a significant increase in inward investment into the housing stock, and more council houses being built and plans for even more, with those important investments in our estates and open spaces. So there's a significant change in tempo from what there has been in the past, with a far, I would say, more ambitious, more aspirational housing service than what we've had in the past, and that is a testament to the work that we've been doing and the way that the authorities move forward. And I've got no doubt that those improvements will be very welcomed by our council tenants across the district. I don't know if there are any other comments or observations. I can't see any indications. If not, I will move to the recommendations as outlined, which are to be found at pages 90 to 91 of the report. And I'll ask colleagues at this point, cabinet colleagues at this point, if there's any dissent from those recommendations being approved. No, in which case those are agreed. Thank you. The next item, 8C, is another housing report. It's the Housing Strategy Refresh 2021 to 2026, key decision 844, to be found at pages 145 to 178. And I will again hand over to Councillor Scawthorne.
Thank you, Chair. The Housing Strategy Refresh comes at a time of increased economic downturn. The impact of Brexit and the COVID-19 pandemic has created an economic slump even more significant than the 2007 financial crash. Unemployment has increased, as are claims in universal credit and housing benefit. Now more than ever, home ownership remains just an aspiration of many Bassetlaw households. The supply of privately rented homes is likely to decrease. As of January 2021, this sector is already facing a £1 billion in rent arrears that those hit by the pandemic struggle to pay their rent. The ban on evictions is due to be lifted this month. This will cause an influx of households seeking assistance to find alternative accommodation. The next 5 years will present a huge challenge to provide households housing local people need. We are determined to assist the government in its commitment to end rough sleeping in 2030. We have already established an additional units of temporary accommodation, and 2021 has seen us launch our own Move On accommodation for those who want to commit to making a change. But without a strong voice in Parliament and a strong MP who just wishes to criticise everything we do, then we see monies being awarded to other areas. This report is to approve the refreshed housing strategy and delivery plan, ensure that the priorities remain current and reflect the housing needs within Bassetlaw, to advise members on the achievements made under the current strategic priorities listed in the housing delivery plan of 2017-20. There is no legal requirement for local authorities to produce a housing strategy. However, it is considered good practice for local authorities to produce the housing strategy, which outlines the priorities towards housing over a minimum of 5 years. The housing strategy document provides a context and drive to enable the housing market in Bassetlaw to best meet the ambitions of the council plan. The housing strategy reflects the key issues identified in the recent strategic housing assessment, market assessment, the SMART, and the council plan. The strategic priorities identified in the 2017 and 20 were to provide affordable and social rented homes, improve the quality of the private rented sector accommodation, and also enable independent living for the ageing and vulnerable population. Appendix 1 sets out the achievements against the housing and delivery plan of 2017 and 20. The refreshed housing strategy and delivery plan 2021-26, attached to Appendix 2, recommends the continuation with the existing 3 priorities, whilst updating the delivery plan with more deliverables. It also includes a 4th delivery priority of developing thriving neighbourhoods. Chair, the recommendations are at 6.1 and 6.2. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to turn to Alison Craig, just in case there's anything that you'd like to add to this item, please.
No, I've nothing further to add. Thank you, Chair. But again, happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. Any comments, questions, observations at all? I can see that Councillor Dukes has indicated.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to comment on this. This has been, as somebody who's very involved in neighbourhood planning, this strategy, this report, bears a huge significance on what we do. And I remember sitting in a meeting only a couple of weeks ago where we were discussing a review of our neighbourhood plan and talking about affordable housing, and the input from Bassetlaw and the housing team into that has been second to none. It's really supported us as a neighbourhood planning team in understanding the way that affordable housing is viewed, and I think this is a really vital part of the services that Bassetlaw offered and should be trumpeted and lauded much more than we do. The joined up thinking that we have across the authority in terms of neighbourhood planning, housing, etc., is second to none. And I would like to thank everybody involved in this report for continuing that support and service to neighbourhoods and community groups who are looking after their own neighbourhoods. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Are there any other comments or observations on this item? If not,
Chair, Councillor Shaw, I think, has got their hand up.
Oh, apologies. I didn't spot that. I do apologise. Councillor Shaw.
It's all right. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to compliment Councillor Scawthorne and the housing team for producing this housing strategy, particularly if it's not compulsory, but it's a really excellent piece of work. And I think reading it just shows how ambitious the council is and the team for wraparound support for Bassetlaw residents. And I think this housing strategy just shows that in text. And I want to thank everybody for all their hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. I'll double check in case there are any other comments or observations that I've missed. I don't think there are at this point. In which case, can I thank everyone for their contributions and move to the recommendations within the report at page 147. And if I could turn to Cabinet members and ask if there is any dissent from those recommendations being approved. I take that as a no, in which case they are therefore agreed. Thank you, colleagues. The next agenda item that I will turn to is agenda item 9A. It is a report in my portfolio area as council leader, policy, strategy and communications. 9A is the Q3 performance outturn and council plan progress update. It is a key decision number 869 to be found at pages 179 to 252 of the agenda. And I will just say a few words in opening in relation to this report. This report captures where things are in terms of performance and plan progress in light of as to where we are in Q3, essentially, and also where things are at this point in time with the progress on the council plan. It is undeniable that COVID has had a significant impact in some areas, and we see the impact of COVID coming through with this report still. Within this item, we have the corporate health check, which measures a number of critical factors linked to the overall health of the organisation. We also have the council plan actions, progress on individual projects over the life of the plan, and we also have performance indicators and actions. And this is a report by exception when off target, or if there's any delay or items are incomplete. Through this agenda, you can see at Appendix A, the corporate health check, performance indicators at Appendix B, exceptions in Appendix C, and council plan actions in Appendix D. We certainly some time ago, there were some slight changes made to performance reporting due to the very real impact of COVID-19. And what you'll see coming through is the impact of COVID-19 in a number of areas that are negative, but in a number of areas some positive impact, and that comes through in terms of working patterns and the way in which it really comes through in the way in which the authority has responded, and progress has been made in many areas. So this is I take this as a very positive report in terms of the progress that has been made against an incredibly difficult set of circumstances and very trying background. So I will turn to Cabinet colleagues in a moment if they wish to identify anything in particular. But at this point, I'll hand over to Mr. Brown to ask if there's anything further he may wish to add or highlight, I should say.
Thank you, Chair. I have nothing further to add, but I'm sure either I or colleagues will try and deal with any questions that members may have. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. At this point, I'll turn to comments, questions, observations. It may be that Cabinet colleagues may wish to add a few words if they wish. I'll turn to Councillor Dukes first, then Councillor Shaw.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. There are a number of red areas in mine, particularly around Freedom of Information Acts, freedom of information requests, data protection, particularly. These have been affected massively by the ability to access data, and I want to assure Cabinet colleagues and others that we are very aware of these and are very clear that they need addressing as soon as we are able to do so. One of the other things is that a number of these are beyond our control as well, because we rely on information coming from third parties, as it were. And if those third parties are not working, it's very difficult to get the information from them. And we have that difficulty with a number of issues around county council. links. So when we want information from the county council, we have found some issues relating to getting information from them. So although there are a number of what would look in normal circumstances as disturbing red consistency, we are very aware of where they are and are very aware of addressing what the issues are once we come out of the current situation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Shaw.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just want to refer to my portfolio, health and community wellbeing, and clearly COVID has a massive impact there in all things, active community teams, BPL, leisure centres. We are complacent now, looking forward to services reopening, and all the meetings that I attend and senior colleagues and everyone is assured that we will do our absolute best to get all services up and running as quickly as we can and get individuals back doing all these activities that are absolutely essential for their well-being. So I just wanted to highlight that COVID obviously has made a massive impact in this area of my portfolio, and thank people for their support and the hard work that is to come in getting these services back up and running. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Scawthorne.
Yes, Chair, thank you. Although there is red areas in my report, I would just like to highlight a few things that have been going on. This has been a really bad time for everybody involved in all the portfolio areas. But I asked Marie Bowler the other day for some figures on what has been achieved while we've been in the COVID, and I'd just like to clarify that 100% compliant all properties that we have a valid gas landlord safety certificate on it. Since May last year, 1,263 have got electrical inspection tests that take up to 3 hours each. For a time they were having problems getting into people's homes and self-isolating. Some of the figures that I got back were immense. And I'd just like to clarify that we are open for business, although COVID is here.
Yeah. No, thank you very much. The national restrictions have had a significant impact on everyone's lives and activities, and that goes exactly the same in terms of the work that the authority is able to do. So by definition, yes, there's been an impact on the work of our active communities team. The leisure centres haven't been able to operate. At one stage, it wasn't possible for work to be done in any way near the same way in our housing service. And so when it wasn't possible to do work on the outside, when it wasn't possible to do work on the inside, work was done on the outside. And so I think that, and I do understand the sensitivities in terms of gas safety inspections, because I was contacted by people who were a bit nervous, but fully understood that everything was undertaken as needed to be. So yes, there will be an impact due to national restrictions, but we are going to be back as the roadmap moves forwards, and everyone will be very, very keen to ensure that rollout is successful as we go on. So thank you very much. I don't know if there are any other comments or observations. If not, I'll be tempted to move to the recommendation to be found at recommendations, I should say, at page 181 of the report. And I'll ask colleagues at this point if there's any dissent from those recommendations being approved. No, in which case those are agreed. Thank you. Agenda item 9B is target setting for the year 2021 to 22. It is a key decision number 870 to be found at pages 253 to 266 of the report. And I will say just a few words in outlining this item, which again falls into my portfolio area. we're at the time of year where targets are set in terms of performance, and in order to prepare for the new, basically the new financial year, I would say. What we have within this item, this report rather, is a number of targets that have been identified, a number of new targets that have been identified. We're very mindful that the impact of COVID-19 is going to have a long tailwind as we move forwards. And so there's no doubt at all that when setting targets and ambitions, we have to recognise that we are still in the process of a framework of coming out of this crisis. Activity will build and build as the regulations allow, but there's going to be there will be an impact due to COVID-19 on the work of the authority. So what we have is a number of targets that have I would say, a similar look and feel to the new targets that we adopted as this crisis was moving forwards. And there have been a number of fresh targets identified in order to support the work of the authority. This work has been brought together through a process of managers working with senior officers and colleagues in order to ensure that targets are challenging but also meaningful and achievable, albeit with a good push where required. So that's all I'd wish to say on that item. I'll turn to Mr. Brown if there's anything further he may wish to add.
Thank you, Chair. As you've rightly said, the target setting is part of an annual process so that we're constantly keeping ourselves appraised of where we are in terms of performance and making sure that we adjust accordingly. We've rightly reflected on COVID, but that's not really been used as an excuse for any major reductions in the number of indicators that we've got. In fact, we've introduced 8 new indicators in here, and performance has largely and targets have largely been kept the same, and in fact in 3 indicators have actually increased the target. So whilst we are mindful of COVID, it's still obviously rumbling on, it will still have an impact. We are still focused on delivering the services that we provide as a local authority and maintaining our performance accordingly.
Thank you very much indeed. Are there any comments, questions, observations on this item at all? I'll take that as a no, in which case I will then turn to the recommendation to be found at page 254 of the report and ask colleagues if there is any dissent from that recommendation being approved. No. Okay, so that's agreed. Thank you. The next agenda item is 10, 10A. Apologies. The next agenda item that I'll turn to is 10A, draft cabinet of the. I'll start again. I do apologise. The next agenda item is 10A, draft local plan update, key decision 543, to be found at pages 267 to 284. And I will turn to Councillor White, and the moral of the story is don't try to read 2 things at the same time.
I'll let you get a glass of water whilst I speak, Simon.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. The recent consultation ran for an 8-week period from Wednesday the 25th of November 2020 to Wednesday 20th of January 2021, and it considered strategic policies, local policies and site allocations. The council usually consults on planning documents for 6 weeks, but as the consultation period overlapped with the Christmas holiday time An extra 2 weeks were added to give residents and stakeholders enough time to participate. The consultation programme approved by Cabinet in November was legally compliant and fully accorded with a statement of community involvement, which has been adapted to reflect the restrictions created by the COVID-19 pandemic. And despite these restrictions, it vastly exceeded its public engagement requirements. The publication and advertising of the consultation was delivered in partnership with the Council's communications team, which ensured that all available media outlets and sources of publicity were used to raise awareness. This included promoting it on the Council's website, social media, local press, magazines and parish newsletters, including a 3-page advert in Worksop Life and Retford Life that reached 40,000 households in the district, which was supplemented by an article in the Harworth and Burcoats Today and in other local newsletters. Site notices were displayed around all the site allocations. Leaflets were distributed for Worksop, Retford, rural areas and the Garden Village, and there was also a parish or ward member pack available. Direct contact was made with those who had previously expressed an interest in the local plan preparation process. And during the consultation period, members of the public and all interested parties were able to engage with the consultation via the Council's website, watching videos, Facebook Live, social media, and through pre-booked virtual Microsoft Teams events via committed local plan community and via a committed local plan community consultation hotline, by letter, email, and by a consultation response form. This was the first ever virtual strategic planning consultation the Council has undertaken. All consultation events were at least an hour long. The planning policy team scheduled a programme of at least 35 virtual consultation events, and these were held for Worksop, Retford, Harworth and Burcoats and the rural areas, plus site-specific events for key locations and sites. And the outcome was extremely positive. As the consultation progressed, attendance at events increased significantly as word of mouth confirmed how easy it was to attend events and how engaging they were. One of the positives that emerged from the virtual events is that those who are not normally comfortable with public speaking were able to participate by using the chat function, making the consultation more accessible to a wider range of people. An additional 17 meetings were held at the request of members, parish councils and neighbourhood plan groups. Social media also provided residents with a forum for active involvement. For example, where local campaign groups had been established in the last plan consultation in January 2020, they were engaged with and became forums for disseminating information and understanding views. As a result, 809 respondents commented on the local plan, including a significant 495 respondents who engaged via a community survey on the Ordsall South site that was coordinated by local ward members. This is substantially higher than for any previous strategic planning document consultation. The vast majority of respondents commented on more than one policy or planning policy issue. Representations are therefore in their thousands. All representations will be considered in the development of the publication version of the local plan. All will be properly considered and addressed before the Council consults on the next stage of the local plan. And the next stage of the local plan process is to develop its evidence base, and work is ongoing to underpin the Council's approach to its spatial strategy and to ensure the identified sites are deliverable alongside their ability to deliver the necessary infrastructure requirements. We also need to agree statements of common ground under the duty to cooperate with neighbouring authorities. Regulation 19, which is publication of the Bassett Law local plan, the final version, is expected to be considered by Cabinet in summer 2021, and it will again go out for public consultation. This version will give us the certainty we need on future growth, the challenges ahead, and the likely costs of delivering new development in Bassett Law. I ask you to support the recommendation at 6.1.
Thank you very much indeed. I don't believe that Karen Johnson's with us, so I'm going to turn to Mr. Armiger.
Thank you, Chair. I've nothing in detail to add to what Councillor White has said. It's a very clear summary of the process. What I would like to say, and it is very much a tribute to Karen Johnson and the team, that not only were they faced with the COVID crisis and having to work out how to consult at that time, they also did so just as their head of service became sort of absent on sickness leave for a protracted period of time. So they really have put a fantastic shift in with this process. And I think the numbers of comments we've received is testament to the way they've gone about it, but also the quality of the process. It was done in a very, very accessible and balanced way. And I think we've benefited from that. And as Councillor White said, people who wouldn't otherwise get the benefit of discussing things with officers at public meetings were able to engage much more effectively through this process. And I'm just hopeful going forward we can learn lessons from this in the engagement we do in the future, because this was a really positive exercise.
Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. Are there any comments, questions, observations? I think I've got Councillor Dukes first, and then Councillor Brand.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm sure I'm going to say what Councillor Brand's going to say, but the way I just want to echo what both Councillor White and Mr. Armiger have said here, in that the ability for particularly rural constituents to have access to officers in the way that they have across the board has been one of the outstanding elements of this. We are indeed, as I like to keep reminding people, a rural constituency and a rural district, and it's really important that views of those people who live in our villages and smaller towns are taken into consideration. And I have had only praise for the support that officers have given people to enable them to consult effectively. That's including neighbourhood planning groups, parish councils, and parish meetings. Indeed, so I think this whole process should be lauded, particularly in the situation as Mr. Armiger outlined, with COVID and with the difficulty in terms of staffing. I'd like to particularly single out Will Wilson for his support for neighbourhood planning groups in this. I know that Karen and he worked tirelessly to make sure that those groups were given as much say as they possibly could, because it's really important that there is this thread, as I've mentioned before, running through both the local plan and our neighbourhood plans to ensure that the residents of Bassetlaw get the developments and the support for those developments that they want. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Brand.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I am absolutely going to agree yet again with what Councillor Dukes has just said. I would just like to make a couple of other points. One is I think the consultation process was exemplary. For anyone who had any fears about having to do it largely online, but still allowing people without the expertise or the equipment or whatever to be able to contribute was fantastic. I had no criticisms to me from anybody about the way the consultation was conducted. And I think thinking about other organisations that I'm involved in, and I hope Councillor Shaw will recognise, the Hospital Trust has had fantastic results with its consultation, the annual members meeting last year, and board meetings, which are attended by far more people. I think those of us who had any fears about going into lockdown and having to do things online, those fears have not been realised, and I think it's a fantastic way of carrying out consultation and engagement with our population. So I'm one that hopes it can continue. Thank you, Chair.
Oh, thank you very much indeed. And I was quite blown away by the efficiency with which the team were able to move forwards with this consultation exercise. And I'm really pleased that people were able to engage in the way that they have. And at Appendix 2 of the report, there's a very, very long list of engagement events and activity that was able to take place. And I'm really pleased with the quality of the responses and the quality of the conversations that were able to take place during these incredibly difficult times. So the work continues in order to work through all those good quality contributions in order to continue the work in developing the local plan. So I'm really pleased that that period of time has been so positively used in progressing things further. And I'd certainly like to place and record my thanks to the team in order to progress this, and with a particular shout out to Karen as part of that. Councillor White.
Yes, I would like, if possible, if we could minute our thanks to Karen and the team, because
yes,
what they did was exemplary. They've actually created a new standard that I hope will be adopted by all consultations in future. And as has been said, if we'd said with the 2020 consultation process, we should do some sessions online, I think we did laughed and thought, what the hell are people talking about? And in fact, it's proved a most effective method of getting people talking and participating in new ideas and new proposals. What concerns me is the government doesn't seem to be so much up for this idea and is pushing for all authorities to go back to face-to-face meetings. And whilst there are benefits of meeting face-to-face, I feel that we do benefit, there's the greater participation and the ease of participation has benefited democracy greatly during this period, and I feel that there should be some understanding of that and enabling of people to continue to meet online wherever possible.
Well, I would certainly ask that thanks be recorded to Karen Johnson for the work that she's able to lead on this very important subject. And I really do hope that the government takes an enabling approach, because it is very, we can demonstrate how much can be done with innovation and applying oneself in the time of a challenge like this. So I really sincerely do hope the government comes to a sensible decision on that. Unless there are any other comments or observations, I'm very tempted to move to the recommendation that we have in the report at page 272 at 6.1, and I'll turn to colleagues if there is any, to ask if there's any dissent from that recommendation being approved. No. Okay, thank you. So that is therefore agreed. The next agenda item that I will turn to is 10B, carbon strategy, key decision 872, to be found at pages 285 to 293, and I'll hand over to Councillor White.
Thank you. In June 2019, full council resolved to call on the UK government to provide local government with the powers, resources and help with the funding to achieve carbon neutrality. The council also made a commitment to achieving carbon neutrality within the council itself and called for a carbon reduction officer to be recruited to lead on this agenda. In June 2020, Cabinet considered a report on the work undertaken by the Carbon Trust, which determined the baseline carbon footprint of council activities. Cabinet resolved to undertake a series of initiatives to make ongoing and realistic reductions in the council's carbon footprint. This included supporting local tree planting schemes and the installation of photovoltaic panels on council buildings where there's a clear business case, as well as making a long-term commitment to transfer the council's fleet to electric or non-carbon fuel wherever practicable. We have since recruited a climate change officer, and over recent months, he has been working to identify and develop projects to progress the delivery of this agenda, which includes solar installations at Carlton Forest and Queen's Building, initiating the electrification of the council fleet, creating heat decarbonation plan, HDP for short, for Bassetlaw District Council owned leisure facilities, and scoping the feasibility for EV charging locations, electric vehicle EV means. Solar installations will be installed at Carlton Forest this calendar year, taking priority over the plans for Queen's Buildings due to the greater supply of suitable roof space and 285 housing the council's fleet. It has been calculated that the Carlton Forest site has the potential to be zero carbon during bright summer days, and this could be linked to the start of the electrification of the fleet. Heat decarbonation plans have been created after successfully applying for funding from the Low Carbon Skills Fund. There was also a BEIS funded opportunity to support a subsequent application to the public sector decarbonisation scheme. Burcoats Leisure Centre and the Kilton Golf Clubhouse was chosen for this opportunity as they represent significant sources of council carbon emissions and can be easily altered to meet the PSDS application criteria. Results from their HDP show energy consumption can be reduced by 60% or more from each site, yielding over £55,000 worth of savings each year. These savings can only be achieved with significant capital investment in low carbon technologies at each site, but it displays the importance of having HDPs for all major carbon emitting sites in council ownership to ensure applications can be swiftly submitted when funding is made available. Another project that has been considered but not yet pursued is efficiency gains at Worksop Town Hall. The Town Hall buildings, both in Worksop and in Retford, are regarded as heritage assets, whilst being responsible for some of the largest sources of gas consumption in the council due to the dated and poorly managed heating systems. A number of projects have been identified, such as secondary glazing and smart thermostatic valves to reduce waste heat. These will continue to be researched to determine suitable solutions. A key ambition is to support the EV infrastructure throughout the district as the internal combustion engine is phased out. This will start by undertaking a public consultation to determine what areas in Bassetlaw display the greatest interest in EV operation or ownership and their access to off-street parking. The intention is to locate areas for the on-street residential charge point scheme and to install publicly accessible overnight parking locations for this large section of local residents. The first COVID-19 lockdown saw the council promoting a work from home policy to reduce transmission. While the carbon emissions caused by staff commuting have reduced, it has not yielded the anticipated carbon or financial savings normally associated with an underused facility. To achieve our carbon neutral ambitions, it is essential that we enact a carbon strategy with the ambition of defining pathways for the council to reasonably achieve carbon net zero in the coming decades. This will require both financial investment in energy saving technologies, as well as support and acceptance from staff and councillors to commit to necessary behavioural changes. And this must include continuous carbon emission monitoring, heat and energy decarbonation plans for key buildings, decarbonisation of the fleet, expand the scope for renewable energy initiatives, and increase waste and water management. The carbon strategy will feed into all aspects of council activities, including but not exclusive to the way it manages and operates all of its facilities, and the delivery of its housing function, council operations such as waste collection, as well as how we approach new development and investment opportunities. These initiatives will have political support and leadership led by a Green champion who will operate at cabinet level. I ask you to support recommendations at 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5 and 6.6. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very comprehensive outlining of the report. We are joined by Robert Craighead this evening, who has been able to, quite frankly, help move this agenda forward. And I'd just like to invite Robert if he has anything that he would wish to add.
Thank you, Chair. I have nothing to add at the moment.
Okay, no problem at all. I'll ask if there are any comments, questions, observations. I can see that the Chief Executive, first of all, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is an important report in terms of the Council's plan up till 2025. And I think it just illustrates, if we've got the tools to do the job, we can get on and deal with it. And I think it's also fair to say that it's useful to give officers like Mr. Craighead authorship of their own reports, as opposed to chief officers taking responsibility or taking the credit for report writing when others have done the work. There's a lot of exciting things here that wouldn't be happening if Mr. Craighead had not joined us, and his expertise and his enthusiasm, I think, is very important in terms of laying the foundations for this strategy and delivering it over the coming years. It's a very good report, Chair, really takes us forward and very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I'll turn to Councillor Dukes, then Evans, then Shaw, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'd like to comment on the thread that runs through the reports that we've had this evening, from housing through to the local plan, through to this report. I think it's really important that that thread is seen, that there is a lot of joined up thinking going on here, and council officers and members should be commended for trying to keep those threads alive. It's really important that we do joined up thinking, unlike a lot of the thinking that seems to go on in government. We do seem to be linking all of our policies and our things together to make sure that we are talking in the right way. The one thing I would like to raise is that the government do have out at the moment an open consultation on the future building standards, particularly around power and ventilation and conservation of fuel and power for non-domestic buildings. And I think it's really important that we are part of that consultation process. The RSN, of which we sit, are putting together a group consultation on this. But I think it's really important as a council that we have our say on this standards consultation. And can I ask that that is considered as part of this report, please? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I imagine, Councillor White, that the points that Councillor Dukes have raised can be addressed in some way in the background, I'm guessing.
I'm sure, I'm most certain that they will be taken up.
Yeah, thank you very much. Councillor Evans, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think this council's approach and the consequent actions it's taking are most encouraging. As far as I'm concerned, this is an absolute must do, and I support the recommendations. Thank
you very much indeed. I'm sorry about this, Mr. Armiger, did you indicate a moment ago?
I was just going to say, Chair, that as part of the social housing work we're undertaking, we are looking to ensure that all of the houses are now built to the highest possible standards we can achieve. And for example, we're not looking to connect any of the new houses to the gas grid anymore. We will be looking at alternative energy systems on that basis, which will be things like heat pumps. So we're already taking those steps. And one other thing, just really responding to Councillor Evans, is actually this isn't just about carving savings as well. Actually, these schemes hopefully will actually make financial savings as well. So it isn't simply about doing the right thing in ecological terms, it's financially sensible as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. No, thank you very much. I'm sorry, Councillor Dukes, did you want to come back?
Yes, sorry, I just wanted to say, and one thing that I'd forgotten there is that, you know, we have an inordinate number of grade 2 and listed buildings in Bassetlaw, and these are notoriously difficult to attach green standards to because of national planning law. And there are this is another thing that the Rural Services Network are trying to address at the moment with government, is that there need to be changes to national planning law to allow landowners and property owners who live in grade 2 listed buildings and beyond and above to put in measures to support a green agenda, not allowing them to put in double glazing, for instance, because of glare, is a nonsense in this day and age, and needs to be addressed. And it's just small things like that which put the kibosh on all of the goodwill and the good thoughts that we have. And I think we need to be addressing that agenda as well. Thank you, Chair.
Understood. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I think it was Councillor, was it Councillor Shaw or Councillor Brand? I do apologise, and someone, I'm sure that the truth will come out. Right, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Robert. It's nice to see you on the screen, and welcome. Heard a lot about you in Cabinet, I must say, so it's really nice to see your face. This report is excellent example of a proactive council, and to appoint a carbon reduction officer, it's absolutely brilliant. The very positive work that you've been doing, as outlined by Councillor White, is just excellent, and I'd like to congratulate the officer for his work to date and look forward to the developments in the future, and I fully support the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Brand.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It's fantastic report, and it's great to see the council heading in this direction. I've done quite a lot of publicity locally about the EV charging consultation. And if I have a teeny criticism, it's that it doesn't talk much, if at all, about the need for EV charging in rural areas. It talks about Worksop, Retford, town centres, but there is just as great a need out in the sticks to have that facility for people who don't have their own garages, drives, etc. So I have been telling people locally to please make the point that we need EV charging in rural areas as well. So if they've been listening to me, then that should seep through in the responses to the consultation. But otherwise, it's fantastic, great way to be going. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much indeed, and thank you for that encouragement for people to be able to contribute to the consultation and put their views forwards. So that is excellent, and I can see that point has been taken on board. So that's very valuable. Excellent. I'll just pause for a moment just in case there are any other comments or observations at all. I can't, I don't think. Look, there's no doubt whatsoever that this is a significant step forward in terms of progressing the carbon reduction agenda for the authority. It is very welcome indeed. And sorry, Councillor Brand.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to add something when you've finished.
No, not a problem. No, you go now.
Okay, well, I just wanted to let Cabinet know that in Misterton and West Stockwith, the two parish councils have set up a joint green group to progress very, very locally some of the things that that we feel we can. The agenda is huge. So we're starting small, and we're going to try and improve recycling rates for starters. But some of these other issues will come on to in due course. It's, you know, perhaps something that other town and parish councils could be encouraged to do as well, so that at very local level, some of these initiatives can be taken up. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor White.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Councillor Brand. At the moment, I think it's really important that we as an authority get our house in order, and so that we can actually be the exemplars in the whole of the district. It's difficult for us to tell others to improve their carbon outputs if we're not trying to make great achievements ourselves. But the next phase, the future phase, will be engaging with the public and working with the public about how they can reduce their carbon outputs. And groups like yours will be the partners in that. So it's very welcome that you have taken the lead. I think you're the first organisation within Bassett Law to meet together with those ambitions. And I think we need to start looking at what you're doing and learning from that. So thank you very much for doing that. It is very welcome. And also, I do want to thank Mac for his hard work, because he is steering us very, very quickly on a very, very speedy path. And that's very much welcomed. And it means that we can be that exemplar and we can be proud of what we're achieving. So thank you, Mac.
Absolutely, indeed. So it really does go to show the kind of catalyst that there's that we have here. And as an authority, working towards the carbon reduction and carbon neutral agenda as we have within this report is a considerable step forwards. And I sincerely hope that other groups and organisations in the district do look to us and look to work with us as we reduce our carbon footprint in the district. And I certainly wish to say thanks to Robert for the work that he's working on and supporting us with. And there's a huge agenda that will be progressing. So thank you very much. Unless there are any other comments or observations, I'll be tempted to move to the recommendations at page 288, 161 through to 66. And I'll ask colleagues if there's any dissent from the adoption of those recommendations. No, thank you. So those are agreed. And thank you very much, Robert. The next, we now move into a series of agenda items that are classified as other decisions. Agenda item 11 is also a report from the Cabinet Member for Regeneration. 11A is STEP, spherical tokamak for energy production, to be found at pages 295 to 297 of the agenda. And I'll hand over to Councillor White.
Yes, some more new language at this Cabinet tonight. The government has set out a 10-point plan for achieving a zero carbon energy future. A key ambition is for the UK to become the first country in the world to commercialise fusion energy technology. People usually immediately ask, what is fusion? Basically, it's an attempt to replicate the processes of the sun on Earth. It must not be confused with nuclear fission, the energy created by nuclear power stations. And it's plain wrong to paint this government initiative in this way. Fusion processes make a fission type nuclear meltdown or runaway reaction impossible. Fusion does not produce any long-lived radioactive nuclear waste. A fusion reactor produces helium, an inert gas, and tritium, radioactive, but with a very short life and with only very small amounts used in energy production. The project has been called STEP, or Spherical Tokamak for Energy Production, and it will be at the forefront of clean energy production. It's been led by the UK Atomic Energy Authority. This report is about the site selection process that they're currently undertaken. The first stage of the nomination process closes on the 31st of March. STEP will have many of the features of a fully operational power station, including infrastructure and R&D facilities. It will also be reliant on significant skills for its development and operation, ranging from apprentices to graduate and experienced career professionals. The siting of the STEP programme would establish the area as a world leader in energy production. Bassetlaw has a strong historical links to energy production, from its mining history through to its 3 coal-powered power stations and its more recent gas-powered turbines. 2 of our 3 power stations have been decommissioned, and West Burton's coal-fired provision will go soon. Subject to views of those site owners, it is proposed that they're put forward for potential consideration. Discussions have already begun with stakeholders, the Midlands Engine and D2N2 LEP, and they have indicated support, and Sheffield City Region, who hosts the Nuclear Advanced Manufacturing Research Centre, are also supportive of Bassetlaw in submitting sites for consideration. We are competing with other sites. This is not a guarantee that our submission will be accepted, but to ignore such an economic opportunity for Bassetlaw would display a limit in ambition and aspiration for our area. We want to increase the wealth and skills level of local people, and this would provide the energy to achieve this. I ask you to support recommendations at 6.1 and 6.2.
Thank you very much. Mr. Armiger, anything you wish to add at all?
Really, only just to say that this is obviously this is not necessarily the start of a long process, because obviously we've been in energy production for 50 years, and I think this is just a step change now that we want to see in being the future for energy in the country. Fantastic opportunity for the district, something we need to progress, but there is a lot of work to be done between now and a final decision.
Thank you very much. Comments or observations? Councillor Lee.
Thanks, Chair. I'm struggling with making this switch on. I wanted to speak in support of this because I do think it's important to stress that fusion doesn't create long-lived radioactive nuclear waste. And a fusion reactor produces helium, and that refers back to my earlier comments that I made in this fast-paced, really very fast-paced developing technology that we'll all be running vehicles on in the not too distant future, including hopefully our refuse vehicles, which will be running on helium. If this project is sited in Bassetlaw, not only will it bring employment, it will also help to establish us as a world leader in the production of green energy. So I very much support this. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Dukes.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I also would like to speak in support of this. I think this is the equivalent to Bassetlaw getting the Large Hadron Collider built in the area. The economic benefits to the area of Switzerland where the Hadron Collider is are enormous. This would be an international development, not just a national one. It would have interest from around the world. And would bring people from around the world. I think it's really important that Bassetlaw can be seen to be bidding for these types of projects. I think it's a massive benefit if it comes here, and the attendant businesses that wrap around a development like this also bring prosperity, jobs, and economic prosperity to a region. So I'm all for this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Any other comments, questions, observations at all? I think Councillor White, you're indicating that.
Yeah, I just want to say we are competing against another Nottinghamshire ex-power station site, so Radcliffe-on-Soar, so it can't be guaranteed. So the work has to start now, really, to promote our site and working with the site owners to make that happen. And also, and this is a request that's come from local members at the potential sites, that we need to start talking to local residents about the proposals, because it's just why I was talking about people trying to use language that may scare people, and we need to reassure people this is about a step change for the community. It means jobs, it means opportunities, but the fear of the impact of nuclear fusion is not there at all. In fact, it's a very safe form of energy production. And I think that language of reassurance needs to happen now, because I've already seen that the local media are talking about it. And so that we need to be engaging with local parish councils and the community to ensure that they understand exactly what we are proposing.
Yeah. Councillor Scawthorne, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I too speak in favour of this, and I'd also like to put it on record that our local county councillors, speaking with those the other night, they were keen to get this cited in Bassetlaw as well. So yeah, it's a must for Bassetlaw. It's a game changer. It will put us on the world market, and we will get the investment into the area that we need. And it also brings in invaluable funds for local services. Yes, totally in agreement with getting this in the area. And good luck to everybody involved.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brand.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think the point that Councillor White made about engaging with local communities is very important. This has already gone out in the MP's bulletin, and before hairs are running all over the place and misinformation and misconceptions about what this is, I think you know, then there needs to be a communications plan pretty pronto, if I may say so. I was very disappointed at reading about the government's diversification out into the regions, that there was no government department coming this way. Perhaps this would be much better anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. There's no doubt at all that with this initiative, the UK wants to be at the forefront of clean energy generation, and we are competing internationally against other countries who have similar ambitions. But the UK believes that we have the right scientific expertise, we have the right engineering, we have the right capacity, and if we're able to achieve this, Bassetlaw would be at the forefront of what really is quite space age technology, limitless clean energy, and this is really part of that future mix of energy supply for the UK, an independent energy supply for the UK, where we're not reliant upon Russian gas or any other gas supplies from around the world. So this really would just put us at the forefront, and this is a multi-billion-pound initiative with a huge supply chain that will need a lot of very well paid, very highly skilled people to work and to progress this project. And if we are successful, this will have a huge impact upon the local economy. And so I think that the government ultimately has to make a genuine decision as to whether it is serious about what they call the levelling up agenda. And I think that Councillor Brandy quite right. Some areas wrestle over being the site for government departments. I would be very, very happy if, as an area, we were able to work to secure this project with its billions of pounds of investment that would come with it for the district. And this will be quite transformational for the place. That is the bread and butter, as I see it, of a genuine levelling up agenda for this part of the world. And let's see what we can do with the next stages. So our level of ambition is there. Let's see if the government have the same level of ambition for the place. I don't know if there are any other comments or observations, but if not, I'll be very tempted to move to the recommendation within the report at page 297. And I'll ask colleagues if there's any dissent from that recommendation being supported. No, in which case that is agreed. Thank you. The next items are in section B, which is items for discussion in private. And in a moment, the live stream will be stopped as we go into confidential session to discuss confidential agenda items. I would certainly like to thank everyone for viewing this live streamed meeting. Before we do move to confidential session, could I please confirm that in accordance with Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, and after considering the public interest test as set out by the officer in the body of the report, I'll ask members if they agree that the following items of business involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraphs 2 and 3, and therefore in accordance with section 100A of the Act, the press and public be excluded from the meeting. And this relates to, I will just be specific, relating to agenda items 12A, 13A, 14A and 15A. Is there any dissent from that course of action? I'll take that as a no, in which case those supporting us, I'm sure, will be able to terminate the live stream at this point, and I'll thank everyone for viewing the meeting.